Hey folks, Eric Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman newscast. Could Zoran Mamdani be only the beginning? The Islamo-communist is set to be sworn in as New York City's next mayor on January 1st, taking control in America's largest city and financial capital.
Hello and welcome back everybody to Christian Global Beat. We got another great video for you today. We're going to take another look into how Islam is making inroads into the United States. Not just what it means for Christianity, but for all of Western culture. Let's take a look.
He's a good buddy of radical Islamists and a vicious critic of Israel. So how did he get elected in New York City just 24 years after Islamic terrorists took down the Twin Towers? Well, here's a hint. Some 62% of all foreign-born New Yorkers favored Mamdani. Many of them arrived after 9/11, and many of them are Islamic. You might say, well, that's just New York City. It doesn't affect me. Have you noticed what's happening in the Midwest? In places like Minneapolis and Dearborn, Michigan, where many Islamic enclaves are popping up? But it could never happen in Texas, right? The Lone Star State is the epitome of faith, family, and freedom in the United States. Well, it's also seen 48 new mosques open up in the past 2 years alone, many of them right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area where I'm standing. 48 new mosques in Texas in 24 months. And it's not a coincidence. From Texas to Mamdani and beyond, this is all strategic. It's the European Muslim Brotherhood blueprint, and it has now arrived on America's shores. Islamists aligning with radical leftists like Katie Wilson, the new socialist mayor of Seattle, who's promising to choose a cabinet that includes people of 2S LGBTQIA+ communities. And you thought there was just LGBT. Get with the times. Good luck, Seattle. What New York City, Seattle, and other American cities are facing is a direct assault on Judeo-Christian values and Western civilization. So is the West sleepwalking into a civilizational collapse. Islam is rising, not only in Europe, but right here in America. And Dr. Rod Martin says the church needs to wake up. He's CEO of Martin Capital and host of the Rod Martin Report, and he joined me to break down the state of play. Take a look. Rod, always great to see you. Hey, Dearborn, Michigan, Minneapolis, the brand new mayor of New York City, Zoran Mamdani, an Islamist. And right here in Texas, Rod, where I'm sitting right now, we're hearing that there have been 48 mosques built in the past 2 years alone. What is happening here, and why should we be concerned?
Well, it's certainly not mass conversion in the United States. It's an incredible importation of people who, for the most part, as they will plainly say, as Ilhan Omar will plainly say, don't represent the United States, don't agree with the United States' values. Omar says blatantly that she doesn't represent the United States in the U.S. House of Representatives. She represents Somalia. Well, that's a problem, and it's a fixable problem, because the truth of the matter is, at the governmental level, no one has a right to come to the United States except United States citizens. It's always a privilege. It may always be controlled on any basis that is in the best interests of the country. That's the law. That's as plain as day. On the church level, though, we need to be more articulate about expressing why a Christian worldview is actually preferable to an Islamist worldview. And those distinctions are not that hard to draw, but our churches are kind of sleepwalking into this, and before they know it, in at least some parts of the country, they're simply going to be outnumbered.
Yeah, Rod, could you break down a little bit those distinctions you mentioned? Why biblical Christianity is incompatible at the end of the day with Islamic civilization? Very tough to coexist.
Well, it really is. And it doesn't mean that you can't get along with individuals, from each faith. That's perfectly fine. But ultimately, Islam is built on a book that demands conquest. And it just couldn't be plainer than day. And you don't have to look any further than the actions of the early Muslims in Muhammad's lifetime and immediately after. In the first century following the rise of Muhammad, you have the conquest of all of the Middle East, all of North Africa, all of Spain, nearly France, all of Persia, into India, and even far beyond, by the sword, and conversion of the people there by the sword. You say, well, that's then, this is now. Well, tell that to Hamas, tell that to Hezbollah, tell that to the Taliban, tell that to the Ayatollah in Iran. It's simply not true. And wherever you go in the Muslim world, you have significantly fewer rights, particularly for the weak, for women, for children, for the elderly. You have dramatically different views of where rights come from than you do in Christian civilization.
Sorry to interrupt here, guys. What do you think about what's been said so far? Do you think it's too much of an extreme view of Islam? Do you think Islam is a religion of peace? Or do you take a look at the history and even the present day and understand that Islam is an existential threat to definitely Christianity and our way of life? Let me know what you think in the comments.
Before I hit that point too hard, I must acknowledge there have been times in history when Christians have not acted that way. But Christians have not, by and large, ever gone around converting people by the sword, or have they recently done anything more objectionable than holding a fellowship supper down at the Baptist church? And that's just completely different from what we see throughout the Islamic world.
Yeah. Rod, great points all around. By the way, as you mentioned, the Islamic armies drove into central France before they were turned back by the hammer, Charles Martel. They reached the gates of Vienna twice. And at that time, it was through attempted military conquest. But now the Europeans, Rod, have let in waves of Islamic immigrants. What's the future of Europe? And is that a cautionary tale for us here in America?
Well, at some point, you hit a tipping point, and there's just no way to get around it. Germany, in particular, has tried to deal with its demographic crisis, not by having more babies, but by importing workers. Well, okay, if it's importing workers from Poland, that may work. Germans haven't always gotten along that well with Poland, but they seem to be right now. But if you're importing them from Syria, and they're nearly all military-aged males, which was certainly true this time 10 years ago, and they aren't bringing their families. If they are refugees, where are their children? Where are their wives? Where are their mothers? None of those people are there. They come in, and we see the crime waves that have resulted, the attempts to force Islam onto natives in Germany and France and Sweden and so forth. And it's just staggering what we're seeing, the rape gangs in Great Britain. You say, well, that's just crazy talk. That's just too much. That couldn't possibly be true, except it is true. And it's in the headlines in Europe every single day. So if you duplicate that in the United States, guess what? You're going to get the same result. And ultimately, we have a system that allows tremendous freedom. And our enemies always use our freedom against us. The communists always did and still do. Everybody always does. That's one of the inherent dangers of liberty. But the problem is, at some point, there is a point at which you must agree or you can't have civil society. If you don't agree that everybody has a right to live as they want, but under a system in which rights come from God, not government, and there are certain immutable things inherent to the person that no one else may violate, eventually you just lose that entirely, and you don't have that society anymore. And now you're Algeria or Syria or Lebanon.
And the Muslim Brotherhood's philosophy is Sharia law for one and all, whether you like it or not. Hey, we mentioned London, parts of it, Rod, unrecognizable now. The Muslim mayor there, Muslim socialist mayor Sadiq Khan. Zoran Mamdani, of course, the brand new mayor about to take office on January 1st in New York City. I describe him as more of an Islamo-communist. Big picture, Rod, repercussions, ramifications of Mamdani taking power in our largest city and our financial capital, New York City. About a minute left before the break.
Well, the bigger problem with Mamdani is the communist part. He probably won't have a lot of influence on immigration policy, but he'll have a tremendous influence on taxes in the financial capital of the world. It's going to create tremendous capital flight, which has already begun into Florida, into Texas. It's going to really harm the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ in favor of the new Texas Stock Exchange. It's really going to be a disaster.
How can President Trump approach this, Rod? Anything he can do? He mentioned last night he's going to speak to Mamdani soon, perhaps. Anything he can do to kind of exert pressure on Mamdani in New York?
He can do a lot because everything Mamdani wants to do costs insane amounts of money that he's going to struggle to get through his city council. He's going to struggle to get past Albany, but a lot of that money comes from Washington. The president can nerf some of the rough edges of what Mamdani plans, but it isn't really going to change the underlying reality. New York is going to go back into a bad stretch, not that different from the 1970s, but certainly in many respects worse.
Great breakdown from Rod Martin, folks. He is sounding the alarm. He is a true watchman on the wall. Follow him on X. He is a must follow there. Of course, the Rod Martin Report as well.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and stop it right there. Another great video, another look into Islam and what it's looking to do here in America. I think this is some of the most important things that we need to think about as Christians. We need to understand not just where we stand, but where Islam stands. And I think it's really important to take some time to really look at our faith, look at our understanding of it, and know that Islam and Christianity are not compatible. Islam knows it, and they're coming to wipe out Christianity. And you might say, wow, that seems really extreme to say, but you can take a look at England, you can take a look at the rest of Europe. It's happening. And to think that it can't happen in America is foolish. So it's time to look very deeply at what we believe as Christians and understand what we're going to do about this Islamic onslaught. So I want to thank you guys for watching. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, amen.